Hello, this is Gloomy Sunday, and once again, I will be sharing spooky stories that will send shivers down your thorny spine. Without further ado, let's begin tonight's creepy, spooky, and sometimes outlandish array of tales. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. In the quiet town of Prazet, nestled between rolling hills and dense bamboo forests, stood a dilapidated schoolhouse that had seen better days. The flickering fluorescent lights overhead buzzed ominously as students shuffled in for another day of lessons under the somewhat infamous Mr. Somkai, the Thai teacher whose sharp tongue and cruel methods made him the bane of every pupil's existence. Mr. Somkai had a reputation as a tyrant. Quick to belittle his students for the smallest mistakes and cold as the steel of his ruler when angered, many whispered tales of how he had turned an entire classroom into tears with just a harsh glare. The school's children often found solace in shared stories of their curses against him. Stories filled with ancient Thai magic passed down from grandmothers to granddaughters. But one student, an introverted boy named Munkut, decided to take things further. Desperate to escape Mr. Somkai's cruelty, Munkut sought out the local spirit known in hushed tones as Kun Luang, a guardian spirit reputed to possess the power to grant curses. Under the cover of night in the depths of the bamboo forest, Munkut found the spirit's dwelling, a weathered altar adorned with offerings of jasmine, and small candles flickering like ghostly eyes. With a trembling voice, he recited an ancient incantation taught to him by his grandmother, invoking calmness and purpose as he directed his thoughts towards his tormentor. As dawn broke over the town, the sun's rays bathed the school in a warm glow, a stark contrast to the chilling omen that lingered in the air. That day, Munkut returned to class, heart racing, as a heavy mist crept ominously over Prazet. It was said that curses, once cast, would find their target, but Munkut had never imagined just how potent his words would be. Mr. Somkai entered the classroom, the familiar bitter scowl on his face. However, something was different. His reflection in the window, when seen through the glass, appeared off. No one, except Munkut, noticed that the teacher's shadow lingered just a fraction too long, skirting the edges of reality. As the day progressed, the chalkboard trembled under the weight of silent malice, and a prickling unease began to grip the students' hearts. That night, under a pale quarter moon, destiny intertwined with the supernatural. Unbeknownst to Mr. Somkai, the curse had caught the attention of a creature far older than any man, a vampire named Vithakan, who roamed the outskirts of Prazet, a figure cloaked in lore and darkness. He sensed the bad teacher's rising negativity and decided, with an insatiable thirst for chaos, to pursue him. Mr. Somkai returned home exhausted and irritable, unaware of the eyes watching him from the shadows. He took a sip of lukewarm tea before the air grew heavy, and the atmosphere crackled with an unholy presence. Vithakan appeared silently in his doorway, alluring and deadly, his marble skin barely illuminated by the moonlight streaming through the open window.
There's one lesson you've never learned,
Vithakan spoke, his voice slithering through the air like a snake.
Retribution comes in many forms.
Before Mr. Somkai could react, the shadows in the room stretched malevolently, coiling around him like chains. Vithakan lunged, revealing elongated fangs gleaming in the dim light as the teacher's screams echoed into the night, swallowed by the abyss of the forest. With a single bite, the curse that Munkut had cast combined with the ancient power of the vampire, sealing Mr. Somkai's fate forever. The next day, the news of Mr. Somkai's disappearance swept through Prazet like wildfire. The school sat silent and empty, save for hushed discussions about fate and karma. Munkut, burdened by the guilt of his own curse, wandered to the bamboo forest, the spirit of Kun Luang whispering warnings in the wind. He realized too late that not every revenge comes without a price, and the shadows that lingered could also consume the heart of the one who cast them. In the moonlight, Vitharkan watched from the trees, a smile playing on his lips. He had taken what he desired, leaving an air of uncertainty and dread lingering in the hearts of the townsfolk. Munkut braced himself, knowing that the darkness he had summoned could very well return for him, for no spirit could quell the thirst for vengeance now entwined with the shadows of the forest. And so, the cycle of fear began anew in Prazit, layered with magic, curses, and a thirst for revenge that could never be quenched. What a deliciously horrible tale! Here's another one. In the lush, vibrant jungles of Malaysia, where the air was thick with humidity and the calls of unseen creatures echoed through the night, there lived a fairy named Khadija. She was one of the elusive spirits who danced among the leaves and played in the beams of moonlight that pierced through the dense foliage. Her wings sparkled like dewdrops in the morning sun, and her laughter sounded like the tinkling of tiny bells. But Khadija was not content. She watched with envy as the humans in the nearby village laughed and shared their lives openly, their emotions raw and real. She desired to experience their world, to feel the weight of human existence, and to taste all the joys and sorrows they endured. With a reckless heart, she made a fateful decision. One fateful night, during the full moon, a time when magical barriers were thin, Khadija cast a powerful spell, trading her shimmering wings for human form. The transformation was painful but intoxicating, and soon she found herself stepping into the village. Her feet grounded in the earth like those of the villagers she longed to join. At first, everything was magical. She reveled in the sensations of human life, the warmth of the sun on her skin, the taste of ripe mangoes, and the pulse of a beating heart deep within her chest. She quickly made friends, bonding with them over laughter and shared secrets while reveling in the rhythm of daily life. But as days turned into weeks, the enchantment faded. Khadija discovered that being human was not as glamorous as she had imagined. Mortality bore a weight she had never anticipated. The fragility of life and the inevitability of pain haunted her. She tried to cope, to live in the moment, but the truth gnawed at her like a relentless predator. The playful fairy she once was had been lost forever. She felt a dark emptiness inside where her magic had once sparkled. One evening, while walking through the village's quaint streets, Khadija stumbled upon an old shrine in the jungle, its facade draped in vines. Memories of her former self bubbled to the surface, and she was overcome with longing. Perhaps she could reverse the spell, reclaim her wings, and escape this human shell forever. Desperate for her freedom, she knelt before the shrine, whispering an ancient incantation that danced on her lips with familiar ease. But nothing happened. Days turned into months, and the jungles that once seemed inviting became oppressive. The villagers began to notice the change in Khadija. Her eyes no longer sparkled with joy, and her laughter had turned hollow. They whispered among themselves, concerned that something was wrong, that a shadow had fallen over their friend. During one of the darkest nights, Khadija wandered deep into the jungle, her heart heavy with despair. She found herself alone, surrounded by towering trees that loomed like silent sentinels. She knew she would never return to her former self. Her destiny sealed as a human, bound to the limitations and sorrows of mortality. As she collapsed onto the forest floor, tears streamed down her cheeks, mixing with the damp earth around her. The ground trembled slightly beneath her, and the air shimmered with an ethereal glow. She looked up to see a figure emerge from the darkness, a spectral vision of her fairy self, adorned in diaphanous wings and radiant light.
You wanted to be human, Khadija.
the apparition spoke, its voice enchanting yet tinged with sorrow.
But the human heart is heavy. Did you think it would free you?
I did not foresee the darkness, Khadija wept. I thought the joys would outweigh the pain, that I could be both fairy and human.
You are forever marked by your choice. Your form is that of a human now, but remember, your spirit belongs to the woods, to the winds, to the stars above.
With that, the apparition began to dissolve into shimmering particles, leaving Khadija alone once more. The truth settled in her heart like a stone. She was trapped in a world she did not belong to, forever haunted by the laughter of the fairies dancing just beyond her reach. From that night on, Khadija became a phantom among the villagers. She would wander the streets at twilight, a shadow in the background, longing for what she could never reclaim. They sometimes caught glimpses of a girl with wild hair and sorrowful eyes, lingering just out of reach. And though they would call her name, she could never respond, destined to live in the silence of her regret, a beauty forever masked in melancholy. In the jungle, the fairies continued to dance, isolated from the sorrow of their lost sister, unaware that one among them had longed too much for what lay beyond the trees. And there, within the heart of the Malaysian wilderness, a single human soul wandered in perpetual twilight, cursed to remember the freedom she once had, forever yearning to return to the haven of magic she could never recreate. I hope you enjoyed our spooky and melancholic stories. Join us next time for more. Take care and boo-bye.